now tuned in to the cold, hard truth. Cayman's #1 hard-hitting live podcast show, where we feature some straightforward conversations on political, social, and celebrity news and all things happening in the Cayman Islands and around the world. This show was created to give the people a voice and a means of being involved and informed without any filters. Sometimes it gets crazy, but we always keep it real. We bring you the tea, piping hot, so grab your favorite beverage and join the conversation via WhatsApp at 324-1612. Email tips at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Now, here's your host, Sandy Hill, broadcasting live from the beautiful Cayman Islands.
Okay, good morning, folks, and welcome to another Fab Friday edition. How is everyone doing? I hope that you guys are well. Obviously, there's lots going on in the community. My apologies for not doing a full show yesterday, but of course, you guys will appreciate that yesterday was a bit of a unique situation in that I was in court for a sentencing hearing. I don't really want to discuss too much about it right now. I think some other media are doing a pretty good job of covering it, and we will, upon hearing the verdict, then do a review of everything, and you'll understand why that's important for us to take that particular position at this time. Atlas says, stay calm. Atlas is here, so it's going to be A-OK. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Appreciate the support as always, Atlas. I hope you're doing well. How are your studies? I know you have been, obviously back in the UK. You guys are in lockdown until at least December the 2nd. So I guess that you've been probably doing quite a bit of studying. Good morning to Maureen. Thank you so much, darling, for tuning in. I appreciate the support. And Crystal is also here. Good morning, sunshine. How you doing? So lots was going on. Of course, yesterday was American Thanksgiving. So I trust that you guys enjoyed some festivities. You know what I like about living here in the Cayman Islands is we can steal from the international flavor a little bit. So we can celebrate American Thanksgiving, we can do Canadian Thanksgiving, we can do, what else can we do? Oh my gosh, there's so much to do. We obviously have our own Thanksgiving now that was started a number of years ago, which is the first Sunday in December. So we can do like 3 Thanksgivings in a year, really. Isn't that fantastic? I like it. Why not? Every day should really be a day for us to be incredibly grateful and thankful for everything that we have. And we have so much. Whatever your struggles are in this world, trust me, we still are incredibly fortunate, and we need to look at the positive side of our lives. Sometimes we complain and we want improvements, but yet we still live in the best place in the world. I mean, whatever our issues are, in my mind, they are fixable, they can be addressed, and we should always try to remember that. So Amari, the beautiful Amari. Ooh, Amari, I love your braids. Those are so pretty. Thank you for tuning in. Atlas says he's keeping the pace, keeping up with his studies very, very well. Siobhan says, good morning. Yes, I missed you yesterday, but it's understandable. Yeah, so, you guys know that I'm actually handling the case going forward myself because I had to fire the lawyer I had previously for a number of different reasons. But, I must say that a lot of the feedback that I've received, even from what transpired yesterday, has been incredibly positive. Other news media were in attendance, and some of them said to me, girl, you perform better than some of these other lawyers I see, which I'm not a lawyer, by the way, but that I perform better than some of the lawyers that they see actually showing up to court. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. I don't actually need my glasses to see, but this morning I woke up with my eyes were actually burning, which happens sometimes because of this dry eye syndrome that I have. So I'm kind of just wearing them to take a little bit of stress off of my eye, but the left eye in particular, I've been putting some eye drops in because that's extremely irritated today for some reason. Like literally in the middle of the night, I wake up with my eyes feeling like someone poured gasoline on them. They get like so bad. And sometimes they're both doing it equally, and then sometimes it's one over the other. So this morning, the left eye is a little bit worse, quite a bit worse actually. So Harla, good morning to you, my dear. With her beautiful Honduras flag. We've got Lulu who's here for the tea. Duran, thank you so much for coming to court yesterday. So we had a number of supporters who did show up. And, you know, I had 3 live witnesses. So like I said, I'm going to actually get a transcript of the proceedings so that after the sentencing on the 10th, we can then kind of go through in more detail exactly what transpired, because I do think you guys will find it very, very interesting. But Duran was there to show his support. And, you know, I do appreciate that. I've had so many people reaching out this morning to me to say, what can I do to support you? And I think probably, you know, at this stage, there's nothing that can be done in terms of the judge per se, but we just got a little nugget of information on the political front. So yeah, you know, I think just if you would like to come out on the 10th to just kind of show your support on that day, that would be awesome. But, you know, the judge has everything that he needs now to pretty much make his decision. There's one tidbit of information that he's asked me to provide him by Monday, to provide the court by Monday, and I will definitely be doing that. So Sophia, good morning to you, my lovely. Some of you guys have the most amazing profile pictures of Facebook. That looks like some kind of, is that in space, Sophia? I'm not quite sure what that is. It looks like it could be like a space picture or something. Good morning to Mr. Walton. How are you? I'm just realizing, by the way, that I've not even grabbed my water this morning. So I'll probably do a couple commercials later on and run out and grab some water. How are you, Walton? Thank you all so much. Yes, we're gearing up for a good weekend. Hi, Larry. How are things? Miss Beulah is here for it. Miss Beulah's profile picture says, proud to be a Caymanian. Man, do I ever love that. National pride. Absolutely. Nim, good morning to you. Beautiful baby. Alice, good morning. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rose. And Julie is here. Julie says, hang in there. You're going to be all right. Remember, the devil comes in all shapes and forms. Oh, trust me. We know that. And I feel good, you know. You just have to stand by your truth, folks. And there's a lot to be said for that. So Bruce says, I'm definitely getting the feeling that the DPP has taken an interest in you. You will need to make adjustments to deal with the realities. Absolutely, Bruce. They've not just taken an interest in me. They have long had an interest in me for the past 10 years. And it actually started with an allegation that I had stolen somebody's dog, which is far from the truth. I'll make some general comments about the DPP. You know, on their website, it says, and I did say this in part yesterday, on their website, it says that the DPP should be, let me tell you what the actual quote is, because it's a quote from the 1800s, I believe. And it talks about what their remit is. So it says, the duty of prosecuting counsel is not to obtain convictions at all costs, but to act as ministers of justice. And that was a case, R.V. Puttick, and I think it was like 18 something or whatever. But basically what that means is that people think, oh, the DPP, you know, their only job is to prosecute. And that is part of their function, but their function should be to seek out what is just and what is the truth. And the fact that they do not do that on a regular basis, and I dare say in particular, in my case, I think is very, very telling. This is a very old position. This is a very old case. And, the remit then of the DPP is that if in the course of carrying out their job, information was to come to them. That's an 1865 case, folks. So this goes to show you that this has been a long-standing legal principle. If something comes to their attention, say, for example, they're trying a murder case or whatever, and something comes to their attention about the defendant, about circumstances or whatever, they should not be seeking to pursue, a prosecution at all costs. They should try to ensure that justice is done. And justice being done doesn't always mean that if something comes to your attention in terms of the prosecution's case, that you should not then seek to remedy that. And what I have found in particular with this particular Crown representative is that her position has been quite the opposite. She wanted a conviction at all cost. And, if that meant not always being honest with the court, then it appears that that's exactly what she has done. It's shocking to me that people can stand up in court, attorneys can stand up in court, and they can make certain assertions and comments to the judge, and they do not know whether or not that's factual. And they're saying that it's factual. That's the dangerous part. It really has opened my eyes because, as you guys know, with all of my previous cases, none of them went to trial because the judges threw them all out pretty much, right? There was one that she keeps harping on, which was a 2013 text messaging situation that, again, it didn't go to trial. And I just admitted that, yes, I was annoying this person, an ex, by texting him. And, that was that. We kind of, went to our own corners, so to speak, sort of situation. But it's dangerous when you have someone who's willing to take information and lay it before the court on the foundation that there is truth to it, and this is what the position is, when clearly that isn't the case. And on more than one occasion, she sought to have my bail conditions revoked during the proceedings on information that was not truthful and had no legal basis. Thankfully, the judges had enough sense, but imagine if you get a judge who just bought into everything that the prosecution said. My freedoms could have potentially been stripped from me because of misinformation that she had presented to the court. And I think that that's a problem. And I do think, Bruce, that when that happens, that absolutely I have to make adjustments. But not only do I have to make adjustments, but in the words of Mr. Chris Saunders yesterday, because Mr. Chris Saunders testified as a character witness, he said that, there's the legal system and then there's justice. And he said justice has not been served here. I really wish that so many more of you guys were there. He said justice has not been served here. What has happened here is the legal system has done its job, but there's no justice in this verdict. And all of my witnesses said that they were very, very surprised by the initial verdict, which came down in August. And that, in the words then of Mr. Charles Whitaker, the court now has an opportunity to maybe, do the right thing by the people in this country. So we'll see how that flushes out. Like I said, I don't want to get too much into it, but I will be obtaining a transcript and I will be sharing a lot of what transpired with you guys in due course. One of the things that's obvious is the DPP has no real understanding of even this podcast and how this works. So anything I say in a podcast, she's just looking for an opportunity to twist that into something else. And you guys know this podcast is an opinion show. We sit here as colleagues, as friends, as Caymanians, as non-Caymanians, and we have a back and forth discourse on many, many topics. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't agree. And, at the end of the day, this is an avenue for people to feel like they do have a voice. And that was one of the recurring themes with the witnesses yesterday, is that CMR, like it, hate it, whatever, it has given people the opportunity to have a voice in this community. to give the voiceless a voice. And, Mr. Charles Whitaker, boy, he was fiery, like, oh, you guys should have seen him. And he said, listen, at some point during the trial, she said, oh, you're no Cayman Compass. And I'm like, okay, is that supposed to be insulting me? I think she meant it as an insult for sure. And he said yesterday, well, thank God she isn't the Cayman Compass, because they don't represent the voice of the average person, and certainly not the voice of the average Caymanian who struggles with employment issues and all sorts of other things. I mean, lately they've been trying, that now they have a podcast, they followed suit with certain things. So Anne wants to know if I can take legal action against the prosecution for misinformation. And what I can do, and I'm trying to figure out the method of doing this, but I can file an official complaint with somebody. I don't know if that's the ombudsman's office yet, so I'm still doing a bit more research. But I will be filing a professional complaint for sure. And these are some of the things that I will be highlighting. So Diana, thank you so much. Good morning. I really appreciate you logging in. Is that Livian? Is that how you pronounce your name? Says, good morning to you all. I trust you guys have a beautiful day. Devi is here. Irvlyn, of course, is here for it. Good morning, Irvlyn. Irvlyn, are you still partying from your birthday, girl? Irvlyn has made this a month-long celebration. Bruce says, we all benefit from your advocacy, but you need to put your family first. Don't give up. However, make the changes necessary to protect your family. And Bruce, I could not agree with you more. I mean, that has to be my first priority, because imagine how ridiculous and stupid it would be for me to try to save this country, save other people, save the world, and I cannot even save my own daughter, and give her an opportunity in this world and at life. That would make no sense at all. They say that charity begins at home, and I'm certainly a believer in that. And this is what I say about some politicians. They're so busy out there trying to live this facade of wanting to, be our savior and save the Caymanian people. But their lives, is in shambles. So, I think it's definitely a good, salient advice. Thank you so much, Bruce, for it. And I have taken that on board. And yes, of course, it is my desire to ensure that my family is first, because ultimately it will be, my family that will suffer in the event of my, incarceration, heaven forbid, or anything else for that matter. So yeah, for sure, I've got to think smart, be smart in all the circumstances. So thank you so much for that good advice. And it's never easy doing a role like this, because, I do this in my own professional capacity, and there's always a fallout from these types of situations. As you guys know, already I have been victimized because of what we do here in Cayman Mall Road. And my husband has been victimized, and he has nothing to do with Cayman Mall Road. He is such a quiet, awesome guy. And yet he lost his job of 4 years where he was the top performer, top employee, simply because Kathy Williams from Williams Squared picked up the phone and said to a company, an IT company that he was working for at the time, fire him because his wife has published something about underage kids being at my house drinking, which was the truth. The article was completely truthful. And the child ended up having to go to the hospital. None of that mattered. And so there are times in life when we are reminded, that the truth doesn't always matter to some people. And they don't care what the truth is. They will work around the truth to our detriment. But those of us who understand the importance of living in truth and expecting that from other people in our lives. So whether it's in our personal life, you have to set certain expectations, I think, for the people that you have in your life, whether it's a spouse or sibling or whatever. Professional lives, so you can operate around people in business who are going to be dishonest and try to take advantage of you. And as a community, we should be seeking out the truth. And I think that when we don't do that, justice will never be served. Sharon says, good morning, Sandy. I believe you going to be okay. The MLA statements are very powerful. Thank you very much, Sharon. Renika, thank you for joining in. Sandra Coe is here. Hey, Sandra, how you doing? She says, sad days in Cayman. Well, you know, what is even sadder is that for so long, there's so many things that have been happening in this community. And we have just been kind of turning a blind eye. Now we're starting to have the discourse. Now we're starting to have the discussion. But I feel like it's never too late, for sure. But I do feel like we've waited so long, and us waiting so long has been to the detriment of a lot of people, including a lot of our young people who rely on us as parents and aunts and uncles and community leaders to really try to reach out to them. You know, I'm still disappointed in the response of the government in relation to all of these fights that we've had at the facilities at the John Gray High School. There was one a couple of days ago that occurred at UCCI. Nothing has been said about it. We've been trying to ask the police what's going on. I've now messaged them twice, and they've not really responded to the queries, which I know, you know, obviously sometimes they get a little bit busy. Sorry. But I wanted to know if this was a situation that, you know, were they filing charges? What was the incident report? And we've not yet found out anything about that, quite ironically. And these two young ladies were just going at each other like you would not believe. And when they are fighting, it is so difficult to separate them. I mean, my God, security guards are trying to get in the mix. And it's just crazy, you know? And it's horrible to see our young men and our young women fighting. But I think they are fighting because there's a universal cry for help. And the response for this has been a little press release, joint press release, I think, between the police and the Ministry of Education, which in my mind didn't really say a whole lot. And we've heard of no concrete solutions of what the government intends to do to address this issue. And, you know, I was reminded of the fact that one of the things that they should do actually to address this issue is they need to separate. Remember, it wasn't that long ago that there's a middle school and then there was the high school. They need to, and they integrated those two into one. So now you have like 12-year-olds who are in middle school with 16-year-old kids. And I think that that's a disaster. And I think it's one of the reasons why there has been an increase in bullying in our schools, and that whole thing needs to be revisited, and they need to segregate the middle school back into a proper middle school and the high school back into just the high school. The logic, I think, at the time was that they were seeking to allow the children to be in that environment longer so that the teachers could develop a longer relationship and a better rapport with them. Clearly that hasn't worked. Why are they getting to know them better if they can't even, you know, prevent bullying, prevent issues, help them through some of the mental health issues that they might be facing? So I think whatever the reasoning was for that particular decision, it simply has not worked. And so we need to re-examine what might work, and that isn't the answer. So Crystal says they're trying to get rid of you before the election season. And that is something that has definitely, Crystal, been shared with me on more than one occasion from people who are in the know. And that's interesting because they feel, I believe, and others have said this to me as well, that I have the ability to impact the election. Because you guys do sit here and you watch the show and you know that a lot of what I say is the truth. And a lot of you are paying attention, and a lot of you see the need for change. And there's so many things happening behind the scenes, folks, in terms of who is going to be working with who during this election. And I can tell you what, we fully intend to disclose those alliances if we are aware of them. So, just like we told you guys up front that Frank Cornwell Jr. has been canvassing in Georgetown Central, and no one has, the party hasn't officially said anything. We're not going to wait for official statements when we know exactly what is going on. So we are fully aware, quite honestly, of some of the alliances. There's some interesting things happening in West Bay at the moment between some persons who are intending to come out, and they're shifting where they're going to run and who they're going to run with, because they want to give other people an opportunity. And yes, there are some people who will be working as an independent, but they're getting financial backing from the progressives. And if that happens, or the CDP, you guys need to know that, because there's no way that you could be getting financial backing from someone in an election, claim that you're independent, and then expect to remain an independent. And we saw how incredibly important the independents were in the last election, because they allowed this unity government to be formed, right? So the CDP obviously played a critical role as well. But had it not been for independents, and I'm talking now about Tara Rivers, Dwayne Seymour, Juliana O'Connor Connolly was an independent. Even Moses at the last election was not a PPM member. They may have changed their statuses since then, as well as, who was the other one? Austin Harris. So those are 5 members who were independent, and some of them still remain independent, but yet they have shown their allegiance and their loyalty to the progressives. So the question really from the electoral perspective is, how can you be said to be an independent but still be working with a political party? And if that political party is funding you or assisting you or whatever, then that is certainly something to consider. And the people, the progressives, I think they're trying to get a feel for who is out there and who is running. And in areas where they do not have a stronghold or a decisive following, they will back other candidates who again will come out claiming that they're independent candidates. They will back those individuals financially and sort of behind the scenes, and ask their supporters to vote for them and to throw their vote in that direction, because they intend for those persons to then work with them to form a government. And that is all political strategy, but it may not be political strategy that is in the best interest of the people of this country. So Mr. Walton says, Sandra, did you ever find out the name of the life skills program that is being used in the schools now? No one has responded at all, Walton, to any of those issues or any of those concerns. And in a little bit this morning, I also want to talk about the quarantine breach, because government has responded in relation to that. We've not had an opportunity yet to delve into that. We did post up an article, but I want us to really go deep into what government has said, because there's some things that are quite concerning in that press release. So Bruce shares that one of the reasons why your work is essential is because we have so much corruption and unethical conduct taking place within our community. Our government is often not as open and honest as we need them to be. And it's important to have a CMR-like media operation to bring essential information to the people and to hold the government accountable for their actions and decisions. It is unfortunate that this has resulted in such a significant sacrifice for you and your family. Thank you so much for that, Bruce. But I do believe that there are times when a sacrifice is necessary. Like you said, you can't sacrifice it all, because at some point you have to recognize that, you've got to look out for yourself, and the people who need you the most, right? So, yes, it is quite unfortunate. I wholeheartedly agree with that sentiment for sure. And I also agree that what ends up happening, and again, Mr. Saunders spoke to this yesterday, is that oftentimes other media houses may find that, there are people who may be wanting to highlight some of these things, but they're afraid to do so simply because they are, work permit holders. They, have a lot to fear. And I guess at the end of the day, we all should have some fear. Fear is healthy. But to think that some people can't speak out in this community at all because of the position that they're in. You know, they're afraid literally of their work permits being pulled from under them. And so they just, you know, toe the line. And that is to the detriment, in my opinion, of anyone who's looking out for the interests of the Caymanian people, because you cannot toe the line enough to get things done. And when you speak up, you become someone who's definitely on their radar. You're seen as a threat. If you have even a minor following, and you know, CMR has, in my opinion, an immense following, that becomes scary to them. And it's like, we're not waking up every morning and going, woo, ha, 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 how am I going to take over the world today? We're here trying to say, how can we make this country better? You know, how can we address the shortcomings of our government, of private sector, and of things that are actually hurting Caymanians who are getting up every single day and trying to make ends meet. A couple of days ago, I had a Jamaican lady on, that would have been Tuesday, contact me about a work permit situation. She's a status holder, so she's Caymanian. But, you know, she was saying to me that she went to apply for a job that she'd seen advertised for a cleaner and a cook at one of the church schools, Anglican church. And she was basically told this is a work permit renewal. And I'm like, what do you mean it's a work permit renewal? When you advertise for a job, this shouldn't be an exercise in futility. This should be a legitimate attempt to find someone, a Caymanian in particular, who can fulfill that job. And then if you can't find a Caymanian, then obviously you will inform the relevant authorities that you cannot find a Caymanian for the position and you wish to resubmit your work permit renewal. But people are just going through the motions of, you know, this is really just a work permit renewal and they have no intentions of hiring anybody else for the position. And that's actually against the law. And so, you know, when she contacted me, she said, listen, I was speaking to someone about this situation and they said to reach out to Cayman Mall Road, reach out to you, and they gave me your contact number. And I'm going to send you the advert, and I'm looking into this because I would like to give the Anglican Church an opportunity to respond to this. And imagine a church which runs a school. In their hiring practices, they should be exercising the things upon which Christianity is founded for sure, including honesty and truth and following the law. And the law says that this should be a real recruitment effort, not just an exercise, right? And they basically told this woman that despite her being capable of doing all of those things in the job description, they were not actually entertaining any real applications. So Jonathan says what we have to do is to get rid of them on election day. The premier and his clowns need to go. Jonathan, I agree with you that a lot of them need to go. And we need a changing of the guards for sure when it comes to the elected persons in this country. They've had their turn. You know, the premier has been there for what, 20 something years already? How many terms has he served? And, you know, you give people an opportunity to serve. And then at some point you have to say, I don't see anything fresh and different. I don't see where you're actually really looking out for the best interests of the people of this country. So maybe now it is genuinely your turn to step aside and to be done. You know, give someone else an opportunity to try to address some of the issues in this country. Johan says, Mrs. Hill, it's clear that you are public enemy number one and has pissed off many people, including me, with some of your stories. However, really, Johan, I thought you were CMR's number one fan. However, if you're sentenced to jail for ICT matters while elected officials and public officers get a slap on the wrist for their alleged criminal conduct, then I think it's clear there's a sliding scale of justice. Hashtag stay woke, Cayman. Well, you know, I did in my comments yesterday to the court, just in terms of general comments about sentencing, listen to me. I have seen people, elected officials, by the way, who have gone to court for assaulting women. Straight up. And we know, everybody knows I'm talking about Austin. This is nothing earth-shattering. He was before the courts for that. He says that he made a mistake. And, we have, myself personally, have accepted his apology, but it was, by all accounts, a brutal assault on that woman. And it was witnessed by other people. There were people there who had to pull him off of her. He went to court. He had his day in court. He pled guilty to the charges. And as a result of that, he has had nothing recorded in his record. He certainly never spent a day in jail for that. We've had other individuals, who've also gone to court for different things, and they've had nothing recorded in their record. That's interesting, right? So it does, Newhan brings up a very valid point in that what is the scale really for whether an offense has met the threshold for being something that would send someone to jail or not. And of course, that is what a sentencing hearing is all about. And that is exactly what was being discussed yesterday. And what I can say is it is very much up to the judge in his discretion. But at the same time, there is a sense that justice is not always served in these situations, and who you are will make a difference, and you guys have seen this. You've seen cases where you go, hold on a second, this person is going to jail for this offense, when I have seen, others who have gone to jail for, or not gone to jail for far greater things. So where is the equality or the justice in that? It's a good question. There's a very interesting case, and you guys know that I do read cases all the time, sometimes out of interest, and sometimes it's just a matter of reporting on them as well, right? And so there is a case right now that is very, very interesting with a young lady. She actually appealed the case to the Court of Appeals. Her name is Jessica Swindimmer. Quite an interesting name, but she lost her appeal, and her case was also an ICT Section 90 ICT case. In other words, an ICT case, folks, is this section of the law. If you use an ICT network, which can be anything technology-wise, it can be your phone, it can be the computer, so sending someone an email, WhatsApp messages through Facebook Messenger, whatever. So any technology that you use to contact someone and supposedly annoy them, harass them, or whatever, that would be considered an ICT a offense under Section 90. So she had done that. And in fact, in her particular case, what was quite interesting is there was a sustained situation where she had been at it for, I'm just trying to actually find the case here so I can give you guys an idea. But she'd been at it for some time. And when she appealed the case, in the summary court, the judge gave her no jail sentence, and she had threatened children. This was like an ex-lover kind of situation. So she was harassing him, threatening him, sending him messages, whatever. She was harassing his current girlfriend at the time. I don't know if they're still together, but that was an ongoing situation. And she had also been threatening the children of the girlfriend. And when this went to court, obviously the judge had all the stuff before him, and he ended up, and also there's property damage. So she had mashed up the boyfriend's, I think it was his front door and his car. But anyway, she did some property damage and stuff. So even with, there was ICT offense, and then there was property damage, she went no jail time. And she actually ended up, just trying to find where this case is. She actually ended up with, I think there was maybe a fine, and they told her, get some professional help. You obviously need that. And then she had to do community service or something else, right? So despite that being it, she felt like she should not have had any of those things, I guess, and nothing should have been recorded in her record. So she actually appealed the case, and it went to the Court of Appeals. And this was a very, very recent appeal. Like I said, I'm just having a look on the, it might be in the Cayman Islands law reports, but yeah, so she, appealed it, and she lost the appeal. The court said there was nothing excessive about the sentence. It's like we said, it's not like they actually threw you in jail or anything. So again, we see cases where the vast majority of cases in the past, since January 2017, there have been almost 400 ICT related offenses. And of those, no one has gone to court with the exception of Atto Stevens. And as you guys remember, he is the girls football coach who was sexually enticing a young lady. And the only reason why he went to court, and I'm going to be just honest with you, is that the court actually said, the judge said at the time, that they couldn't prove the more serious offense of him sexually assaulting the young lady, right? They couldn't prove that because she said that he had touched her and whatever. So they couldn't actually prove that. All they had left were the text messages. And so when we look at the volume of what he had done, number one, it was an underage victim. And the volume of messages that he had sent to this young lady, it was something like, let me see if I can, it was something like 69 phone calls over a period of time, and countless, the judge said, countless WhatsApp messages. So they couldn't even, it was just so many. So remember, this was back in August of 2017. So almost 400 offenses where ICTA has been the primary offense. In other words, there might have been other things that they were alleging. And yet, this man who had been having an inappropriate relationship of some sort with a 14-year-old female athlete was found not guilty on 3 out of 4 of the counts, right? 64 phone calls and countless WhatsApp messages was what the judge said during his sentencing back in August of 2017. And the judge said that the evidence was overwhelming on the single count relating to the misuse of ICT, but had doubts on the other 3 more serious offenses. So in other words, the Crown did not meet the criminal standard of beyond a reasonable doubt in the judge's mind. So this was Justice Michael Wood, who heard the case back then without a jury. So there were numerous WhatsApp messages. The judge in that case used very strong language. Like he said, this was ludicrous. It was insulting, how he tried to describe the WhatsApp messages. And he found that he was requesting naked photos of this girl, sexually explicit photos for his own sexual gratification and pleasure. This is a father of several children, still married, by the way, to Sidonie Mothersill, who is a decorated Caymanian athlete. And so this guy was sending her some really disgusting messages about his privates and writing his you-know-what and all this sort of stuff. So the judge said, listen, this is beyond, right? So he sentenced him. That was the only case in recent time where someone has been sentenced to an offense under Section 90 of the ICTA, a 38-year-old in communication with and messaging a 14-year-old child. So he spent some jail time. Remember the UCCI professor? They had ICTA offenses latched on to his stuff as well, but they end up leaving those offenses alone because he pled guilty to the more serious offenses of having child pornography in his possession. So there is also that. So in the 17 years that this particular legislation has been in place, the Section 90 of the ICT has existed for a long time. And I think it's one of the most, I think it shows up a lot on the court list. So I don't know if it is the most of, common offense, but it's at the top of the list for sure. No one has ever gone to jail for this offense except for the likes of Atto Stevens. And I think there was one other guy who was using an ICT network to threaten to kill someone. And he had a lot of other offenses as well. So he was sentenced to jail. But outside of that, this Swindimmer lady, Jessica Swindimmer, and others have had, tons of cases before the courts of sustained abuses of the ICT network, and nothing has happened to them in terms of they have not been subjected to any jail time. So when I say nothing, I don't mean, a fine, community service, but nothing in terms of an actual jail sentence. And that is that's important to know for sure. So if I can find the case of Jessica, it was just in my mind. I want to say, and it's very, very recent, maybe just last month. Let me have let me just have a look here. Let's see if I can find it. So the other interesting thing to note from yesterday is that there were a number of things submitted by way of, the defense submissions to the court. And that included some 65 reference letters. The prosecution claims that they did not see any of those in what was sent to them. The Crown accepted that, or the court accepted that they had received via the young lady who manages the Grand Court staff. They had received the same link that was copied to the same prosecutor, and they received it, and all the information was there. So they're not aware of why the Crown can say that she never received them. Unbelievable, quite honestly, for someone who is so particular with everything else and pays such close attention to detail, that she could stand up in court yesterday and say that she never saw 4 or 5 other documents that were included in that Dropbox link. You guys can interpret that in any way that you wish, trust me. So yes, there is a lot. There is certainly a lot here, and we will continue to talk about some of these things as we go along. Just trying to see if I can find. I think you guys would find this case so interesting as well. Okay, so what else has been going on in the Cayman Islands? Let me just get to a few of your comments here. And then I want to talk about the situation with the dentist. Because what the government has said by way of a response is less than satisfactory, in my personal opinion. And I don't think that you guys should be satisfied with their response either. So Crystal says, I wish the Caymanian people were able to choose the ministers and premier, etc. Yep, unfortunately, that's not the case. Good morning to Miss Sue. She says, sorry to hear this case is still not over and done with by now. This is crazy. Yes, the wheels of justice can be very slow. Sophia says, mistake is they love beat woman in Cayman. It's normal to them, very disgusting, and I dislike it. Yeah, and we see it has happened in a public setting. And I'm willing to bet you that nothing comes of that in terms of a sentence. If Mr. Bush has anything recorded in his record for viciously assaulting a woman in public, I would be beyond shocked and surprised. Mark my word. Take it down. 8:30 on November the 27th, I predicted that at the end of this, nothing will come of it. They will drag it out until right before the election, and then nothing will happen. They'll say, Mr. Bush, don't do it again. Go get yourself some professional help. And that will be the end of that. Good morning to Ms. Rosemary. Jeremy's here. Thank you so much. Jeremy is saying that is not expression if they charge that maybe we just need to throw the Constitution in the garbage. Well, let's not do that because we think things are bad now. Morna says that they put Christ in prison for nothing. So what do you think they will try to do to Sandy? All you can hear is send her to prison. Check out Fox and other reporters giving the wrong news. If they had to send every reporter to prison, they would have to start building more prison cells. Oh my God, Sandy, stay strong and all will be fine. Yeah, one of the interesting things, Morna, speaking about reporters, is I have not been able to find a single case anywhere in the world where a prosecutor has charged a reporter with this type of offense of harassing someone with the written word or even a podcast. Everyone accepts that this was a civil case for sure, but there are a few people that accept that this was actually a criminal case. And I think the fact that even the prosecution themselves can't even find a case to say, oh, look, here's a case just like this. Here are the sentencing guidelines and what was said in that particular case. I think that that speaks volumes to the situation. Sophia, Catherine says justice for Sandy. Thank you so much, Catherine. Good morning to you. Irvelyn agrees with Morna and says this is ridiculous. Woman's strength them have. Aliano, hey Aliano, how you doing? Says, what do you expect in this country from petty legislation and a petty judicial system of us versus them? Time wasting is the game here. People wake up, rise, and ever submit. Yeah. I tell you what, I've had former legislators and current legislators say that Section 90 of the ICT law was never intended for this sort of thing. And so perhaps they need to revisit this legislation with a view to tightening it up. And even yesterday, Mr. Kenneth Bryan made some comments that if he has the power to do so, he thinks that this legislation needs to be changed. Former government ministers have said to me, this is just unbelievable. This is, again, these are not people who agree with everything I write or whatever, but they said this is not what the law was intended to do. And that is kind of a sad indictment on us if we can apply laws so broadly. And, obviously the court is there to interpret the laws. So if the legislators have done a poor job of writing legislation, and that means that it has a broad application or can be interpreted in a certain way, then for sure that will happen. And this is a perfect example of that. They're just overreaching. All right, let's take a quick commercial break. I'm going to grab some water. Why don't we play the national song? This is a song that I didn't play at the beginning, and I do like to play it. And it is one of a great source of pride. You know that there is a movement underfoot. We need to talk to Miss Lisa Scott at some point. Her sister's Irma. That's why my brain just confused those two. But we need to speak to Lisa Scott at some point about her campaign to get her great-grandmother, who is the author of the national song, recognized as a national hero. She was quite a phenomenal woman, actually, and has quite an amazing story. And she's left a legacy behind, including this national song. And she was a prolific songwriter and musician. And I'm going to follow up with Miss Lisa about coming in the show and talking about her great grandmother. But this song is our national song of the Cayman Islands. It means a lot, I think, to all of us who are Caymanians. We need to have a sense of pride about all of our national symbols and songs. And so this particular rendition of it was done during the COVID pandemic. And that's why it's done in this particular fashion, as you'll see here, is that people were singing different bars of the song remotely with their phones, and then they submitted it, and there's a compilation done. I know that Derry Dakers was very instrumental in putting this together, along with all the contributing musicians. So we have some great people in it, like Danny Loop. We have Miller. What's his first name again? Hold on one second. I'll tell you. He is amazing musician, actually, here in the Cayman Islands. Benil Miller. He is off the chain amazing. He can play different instruments, and this kid is really very talented. And then we have other people singing, including a former Miss Cayman, Mona Lisa Tatum, now Mona Lisa Mead, Derry Dakers, and Erica Hassan, Chris Saunders. Who else is in this one? Anyway, enjoy it. I just wanted to give you guys, sometimes I played at the beginning of the show. My daughter, by the way, is going through a phase right now where she loves the national song with a passion. And so it gave me an opportunity to grab some water, and then we'll come back and discuss a few other things. She is like, I want you right now. And I'm like, ah. All right. So good morning to Elizabeth. Elizabeth says, good morning, Mall Road. Bless up yourself and thanks for your information. So let's talk about information because that's what we're all here for. So there's a few things. My apologies to Alric. I know that normally Thursdays is his day to come on and talk about topical issues. And I'm aware that he actually wanted to have a discussion about the Constitution, which is something that he has been focusing on. On day before yesterday, so that would have been Wednesday, the government issued a statement in relation to this breach that had occurred with the COVID-19 measures, right? Now, what is incredibly interesting about this is the fact that, number one, I don't know why they waited so long, to be quite frank. However, they did. And their wait, I guess they were waiting to see if we even cared about the situation, about this outbreak. And of course, the people of this country care about this because this couple were so brave and just brazen in their approach to the breaches. There were numerous breaches. And not only were there numerous breaches, but literally they were all over the place. Yeah. Restaurants. So I had people contacting me. Oh, I saw them at Peppers. I saw them at Salty Grill. I saw them at this location and that location. And I thought to myself, whoa, unbelievable. Yeah. So here's what we know. The government has now admitted that they have made a number of mistakes in relation to the handling of this couple. They do point to the fact that, listen, there have been thousands of other people who have thus far come through here and everything has been okay. Not so sure about that, to be honest. That is their position on it. But I do not think that most people in this community believe that that is the truth. I've had way too many people talk to me about breaches to honestly believe that there have been no other breaches. In fact, the mere fact that this particular couple were so well versed in what they did and how they did it speaks volumes to me on how vulnerable the system is. And the vulnerabilities of this phased re-entry system means for us that we're all vulnerable to another outbreak of this COVID-19 at the community level. And that is something that we have worked very, very hard to ensure does not happen. So imagine, if you will, right, that this couple had been positive. And listen, in the past week alone, we've had over 10 people, travelers coming into our country who have been positive with COVID-19. So it's not something that is untenable, like you couldn't think of this. It's not impossible. It is not only possible, but very probable that they could have been positive. Thankfully, it does not appear that they were. They were permitted to leave the jurisdiction before their initial date. And this press release clarifies that that would not have been happening had they not been positive. or not been negative, my apologies. So I'm really quite glad to hear that. So folks, they did a lengthy press release, as government press releases go. And they have said, amongst other things, that, they confirmed that they were fined $1,000 each, which everybody's shocked about. They go on to say that people are permitted to leave within the 14-day isolation period if at least 1 day before departure, they receive a negative test. Additionally, the traveler must agree to being escorted by a Cayman Islands Airport Authority representative to ensure social distancing procedures are observed during their departure. So let me just pause right there, because there were some questions. There were some questions about how they were permitted to come in. Their intended departure was the 1st of December, which would have been day 14 of their stay. And it's peculiar. The government would have this policy of allowing someone to enter the Cayman Islands with the understanding that they are going to be leaving very, very soon. What's the point of that, really? It seems to me that when you allow someone to come in under those circumstances, that you are actually setting us up for failure. Why would someone want to come to Cayman and spend only the quarantine period here? What are you going to get done that you couldn't do somewhere else in the world? Because you're in lockdown, you're in quarantine. So what's the point, really? Oh, well, maybe they want to check in their property. Really? Didn't we hear when they first talked about this initial phased in reopening that the persons who'd be allowed in, yes, some property owners, but that those property owners would be people who were intending to come here and stay for a couple months. And they would be an influx of revenue as a result of them staying here into the economy, them, staying and eventually going out to restaurants and doing other things. Seems strange and odd to me that now we are saying that those persons are permitted to come in and remain during the quarantine period. Okay. Very bizarre. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. And if you guys can explain this one to me to help it make sense, by all means, I welcome you to do so. But government has now confirmed that that is a policy of theirs. And I guess who are we to tell government what policy they should be considering? They go on to say that following confirmation of the breach, the couple were removed from their residence and taken to a supervised quarantine facility, and that the couple were permitted to return to their residence for 24 hours in order to pack their belongings to prepare for departure. I'm sorry. Let me try to understand this. So someone breaches quarantine, and they have said that when someone does that, they will move them to the government facility. So you allow them to go to the government facility and not pack? Doesn't sound like they were ever intending to stay there for very long. So this is the excuse that they use as to why they were permitted to go back. The real reason, folks, is that this couple and this gentleman are just the type of people that they are, and he always kicks up a fuss and demands things, and I'm not going to pay this, and I'm not going to stay here. And our government buckled to him and caved in. That's the real story. This sounds nice that, oh yeah, they were going to pack. That's not the truth of what actually happened. The truth of what happened is that this gentleman, and it is privilege, Gary, to be quite honest. And yes, there is such a thing as white privilege. And these people exercise white privilege, monetary privilege, foreign expat privilege. They pulled out all the privilege cards to get this whole thing to work out in their favor. So he was kicking up a stink, refusing at the Holiday Inn to pay for the government quarantine, and that he needs to go back to his place. And he was just talking loud enough that I guess he scared the travel Cayman team into sending him back to his facility. They say that public health confirms that they conducted the required investigations. As a matter of course, in all instances, they claim that they did tracing and that all necessary individuals were contacted. I do not believe that that is the case, because I know of persons at that facility who had contact with this couple and others outside of the facility who had contact with this couple who have never been contact traced and have never been spoken to. Maybe it's a situation where, because they were negative at that time, that the government thinks, well, what's the point of contact tracing? But let us keep in mind, if they were here and not in quarantine from day one, we're assuming that there are no local cases, but we know that they're local cases. If they were, heaven forbid, to pick this up from someone else, either in quarantine that they may have been commingling with, who then turned out to be positive, they could eventually show up in the coming weeks as someone who actually has this virus. And that would be the most ironic thing of all. This PCR test only tells you in real time whether someone has enough of the viral load in their system to give you a positive result. And there are actually situations and explanations for why you could get a negative test, and the truth of the matter is the person is actually positive, and eventually they will be positive, whether that's asymptomatic or otherwise. So this is extremely disappointing that we continue to allow this flagrant abuse of our system, and then we excuse it by way of these press releases. So they did say that following the quarantine breach, the Travel Cayman team convened a meeting to review and strengthen the current processes and close any gaps in the system that might potentially be exploited. Travelers now have to pass through an additional checkpoint at the airport to confirm that the bracelet has been properly fitted to mitigate against tampering. You think that has anything to do with the fact that we disclosed on this show and in our news article that this couple, who intended from the onset, from the second they applied for 14 days, that should have been a red flag. Oh, we only want to stay for 14 days. They intended from the onset to breach their quarantine. And one of the things that they did is, when they had the quarantine bracelet fitted, they had it fitted higher up on the arm than it should have been fitted, so that then they could squeeze it off of the arm. So now you have an additional checkpoint requiring more staff. I mean, let's just be honest here. It doesn't take a genius to know if you're fitting a wristband on someone that is supposed to be a tracking device, that you will want to fit that snugly around the wrist where there's little room for maneuvering. You're not trying to cut off their circulation by any stretch of the imagination, but why would you fit it anywhere else on the arm? And that's precisely what was done. So now they've decided that the solution to this is not to deploy more common sense from the existing team, but to set up an additional checkpoint. Gary says the authorities should take a hardline approach in protecting the borders and its people before rolling over for these people. Not only that, Gary, yes, a hardline approach is absolutely necessary. When we have a breach, as we can see, the court's response has been very lackadaisical and highly criticized. $1,000 fine when the law actually allows for and says the fine should be $10,000 and up to 2 years imprisonment hardly seems like the correct response. And then the government says, as they respond to these things, that, oh, we're going to prohibit them, and we're going to get to that here in a second, from being here during the additional COVID measures, really? So Dr. Tarsha Ebanks-Garcia, who's director of Travel Time, has said that over 1,000 individuals have been approved for quarantine residence. Now, I want you to do the math. Over 1,000. Think about how many people they have monitoring that many people. And you would see that there's an impossibility at this point to monitor those people as they claim that they have. And there are people who've gone into quarantine who said, I've never been checked. No one has drove by. No one has checked me. And I know that for a fact. So these spot checks that they claim that are occurring seem to be very low in terms of frequency. So Deputy Governor Franz Manderson has said, everyone who opts in to participate in this program, sign an agreement outlining the terms and conditions. Obviously, they don't care, sir, to ensure that they fully understand and agree to comply with the restrictions. This isn't a situation where these people didn't understand. This is a situation where they fully understood. They had ill intentions from the onset. And quite frankly, they just didn't care. So they go on to talk about, in light of recent events, it's necessary to reinforce the message that persons subject to quarantine restrictions that are found to be in breach will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And then they quoted here, this is the commissioner saying, any person prosecuted will be liable on conviction to a fine of $10,000 and imprisonment for 2 years. Really? Then what's the point of a $1,000 fine? $1,000 fine for these people is like them going out to a really good brunch one Sunday, having a few drinks with their friends and enjoying themselves. It's no deterrent if you say that there's $1,000 fine and imprisonment for 2 years, but the courts don't actually ever utilize that. They're still handing out $1,000 fine. So the police can say that all they want. If the court isn't reinforcing it, it makes absolutely no sense. Now they say compared to others, the Cayman Islands is doing exceedingly well, blah, blah, blah. Okay. It only takes one. And in this case, we had two breachers working together in tandem, crawling over the wall of their property, crawling over the fence, going to the liquor store, going out to eat, doing the most. They could have been super spreaders. So now their solution to this is to say that this particular couple will not be permitted to, I'm just trying to find that section of the press release actually. But basically they said that this particular couple will not be permitted to come back, to return to the Cayman Islands. Here it is. The Travel Cayman team has has confirmed that the couple will not receive approval to travel if they reapply to return to the Cayman Islands while COVID-19 mitigation measures are in place. Okay. So they're not going to come back at this time, but what is the point? They wouldn't come back now out of public embarrassment anyway. I got a source from the plane who messaged me and said that they were on the flight with them. And in fact, let me just read to you what this message said. That they were on the plane holding their head down. So this person says, hey, Sandy, good afternoon. This was on, I think, Tuesday. I can confirm 100% that the couple was on the plane today, the Miami plane today. The couple was on the plane to Miami today, for I was a couple seats away from them, and they did everything they could not to catch eye contact and be noticed. Yeah, because they're ashamed, and they should be ashamed of themselves. But Why is our government saying that their response to this couple is, oh, you don't get to come back during the quarantine measures, the COVID measures? That's it. Really? They should never, never be able to step foot in this country again. This guy is a dentist, mind you, and he understands the implications of his actions, no doubt. He has the intellectual capacity to understand it. And him and his wife have come in and just basically thumped their noses at us and said, we don't care. It doesn't matter. We will take our chances, and we will also put the entire country of the Cayman Islands at risk. Are these the type of people we really want to welcome into the Cayman Islands ever again? Forget about during COVID. Sue says, very true for the rich privilege, and there's plenty more single boyfriends, girlfriends coming in here to be with their other half on vacation, which wasn't supposed to be happening. Remember the young lady, folks, in the video talking about how she jumped in the plane and came to the Cayman Islands and got a condo, and now she's living on an island? We're going to update you later on today about her immigration situation. And you probably will not be surprised at what it is. We have got to be some of the simplest people in the world to believe the cockamamie stories that we get from these people all the time. Catherine says they should have been slapped hard with the $10,000 fine, 3 months in prison, and then deportation. Send a message to everyone. And you know what? It should have been a $10,000 fine per breach. Multiply that times 15, and then we're talking about some money that could have deterred someone. Gary wants to know, so who is accountable when an outbreak occurs? I don't know who's going to be accountable. What I do know is all of the rest of us are going to be the ones suffering during this, because we will be the ones in lockdown. We will be the ones having to all wear masks everywhere we go again. We will be the ones suffering the consequences for selfish people like Dr. Pascal Terjanian and his wife, Christina. Now, I'm pleased to say that the Montreal Gazette picked up on this story, and they also ran it. And I appreciate that, because they covered it so that now everyone in Montreal will know what type of people they have living amongst them, which I think is equally as important. This is a worldwide pandemic, folks. You know what I'm saying? This is not a situation where it's happening in isolation. Seriously. So when I see that international media has picked up on a story like this, and this particular publication has written about him before, and they remind us of his previous title of being a menace to patients in Montreal and the other places in which he has a clinic. It says Terjanian, 52, who was once called a public menace by the Quebec Order of Dentists, has been the subject of many complaints about pricey, shoddy, and painful dental work dating back to 1997. So even in his own community, and we put that in our article as well, he is really something else. In 2014, he was suspended from practicing dentistry for 30 months after a disciplinary committee found him guilty of 38 infractions. The committee said the suspension was warranted considering the gravity of the infractions and the apparent absence of remorse and the possibility of recidivism. Tell me something. There have been some people who have shared that this man is actually or has been practicing dentistry in the Cayman Islands. I have not yet verified this, to be honest, but I am curious as to whether or not this is actually the case. Really? This guy has been stripped of his license and we have permitted him to come to the Cayman Islands to practice here? Whoa, are you for real? Irvlin says, what if you had not highlighted this situation? Nothing would have been done. They'd be in and out of here without anyone knowing. Irvlin, that is a sad fact. And that is why, regardless of what you think and what you want to say about Cayman Mall Road, trust me, there's a lot of issues and a lot of things that are highlighted and brought to our attention that nobody else will be reporting on. The Compass, to be fair to them, picked up the story after we did. But would they have picked it up otherwise? I guess that's pure speculation. We'll never know. Darlene shares the same opinion. If you never highlighted this, we would never know. And Irvin agrees that even after COVID, they should not be permitted to come back. Good morning. So, quite an interesting fiasco with this couple. I don't know if the social media embarrassment will do anything to curtail their behavior. Most people like this simply do not care, to be quite frank and honest. And they will continue to operate as they have before, with flagrant disregard of the laws of this country and probably continued disregard for the laws of Canada and wherever else they'll be going after this. Not impressive at all. Government's response, lackluster. Lackluster. All right, folks. Let's keep it moving. So one of the things that I'm working on for you all, there was a theft last night at McRuss. We did receive some video footage of it. And you know, let me just show you guys. What we're dealing with here. Let me just see if I can find this video. So this guy actually reached into someone's car and stole their handbag. I'm going to show you guys a picture, and we will be posting this up after the show. I'm hoping that you will be able to assist in locating this individual. It seems like he may have been working with someone who is a former employer or employee of the establishment. So this is McRuss grocery store that is there on Eastern Avenue. So let me just see if I can pull this up so that you guys can get a picture of this individual. I'm sure somebody knows who this couple is and who knows who this man is. Caught red-handed, on video stealing. And so we need you guys to come forward, notify the authorities, notify us, so that they can be arrested. We believe in law and order here, folks. And you know what? The people who try to take advantage of the good people in this country by stealing from them, and it's just not right. So Sue, give me 1 second. I'm actually bringing it up now. Absolutely ridiculous. So the first picture is of the woman, his accomplice that was working with him. Anybody knows who this young lady is? By all means, do let us know. So does anyone know who this young lady is? No, Louis, I actually wasn't having a camera problem. Sometimes I turn the camera off and just do voice only because I might be looking or searching for something. And that's what I was doing in that moment. So do you guys not like my little avatar that I have up? You missed my live face. That's the woman that we're looking for. This is the man that was accompanying her. And let me guys show you another angle for him. One that hopefully should be, there he is. Let me take the comment off the screen. Anybody recognize this man? Anybody recognize her? So we have video footage as well. Someone said that they went into McRoss to purchase something and left their bag on the front passenger seat of their vehicle because they only needed their debit card, which please, folks, never do that. When they finished shopping about 15, 20 minutes earlier, they went to their Jeep and noticed that their purse and makeup bag was missing. McRoss pulled up the video footage to only discover that this couple went by and put their hands in the woman's bag and stole her handbag. So, trust me, this is a reason to be concerned. Anyone, although I never recommend putting your handbag on a car seat. We've all done it as women on occasion, where you just don't even think about it. We don't think that someone's going to reach into our car and steal our handbag. But that's what this couple did. So now someone has lost their handbag, their money. If you know them, you guys know what to do. Send a message loud and clear that this type of behavior will not be tolerated. No, no, no. Hi, Louie. We're not going to accept it. We'll try to get some. Yeah, Crystal says in some countries they would have got their hands chopped off. You better believe that. We will try to get some additional information this morning if there have been any updates on this. Karen says people love to end up on CMR. Well, they don't love it because when they end up on CMR, they get caught red-handed. But yes, they do things. I don't know how these criminals think. I mean, do you think these are people who just steal and don't care anyway? Like they don't care if they end up on media, if they're exposed for their dishonesty? But they're the same ones who be trying to cuss Cayman Mall Road, you know. Make no two bones about it. Oh, God. They go on the most. Ridiculous. And yet, in my mind, the easiest thing in the world is to stay off of Cayman Mall Road. It is so easy, folks. I'm not lying to you. It's easy, easy peasy. Just don't steal from people. Don't molest people's children. You know, don't steal money, dogs, whatever. Well, you guys know how it works. We will definitely be putting up the story, and I'm sure once that goes viral by midday, we will definitely know who they are and what they've been up to. Yep. Hot mess. Ay, ay, ay. What can you say, folks? What can you say? People work too hard, man. I mean, it's just like, really? People work hard every single day for the things that they have. And for people to think that they can just abuse that, don't care, you know, take advantage of people, it hurts. It hurts to know that, you know, you have a little bit of money in your bag and then somebody takes your money and it's gone. I don't know. It's disturbing. Ay, ay, ay. Louis says, I've done it and I'm not even a woman. The only thing here, I have my verdict on my side. Aliana says, trust me, they watch out. The police now watch out being in Mall Road. Yeah, Mall Roaded. Yes, Louis says, if you didn't put it down, don't pick it up. Yeah, it doesn't belong to you. These people and their sticky fingers, they need a little tap on the knuckle with something to get them to stop this behavior. Ridiculous, man. Sure. You know what I'm saying? I just can't even. It's just disturbing. It's like when people owe people money and they don't want to pay the money. It's the same sort of principle. It's a matter of dishonesty. Listen, things happen, and if you don't have the money, then you communicate with the person and you say, I know I promised to get you this money, but you know, a situation right now, I still intend to repay you. Just give me a little bit of time. When you lie to people and you hide out and you do the most to not pay the money, what do you expect will happen? It's like this woman, Thelma Ross, $85. She comes to my front door, cussing and carrying on about how somebody contacted us about $85. Like, what's the big effing deal about $85? Well, you know what? If it was such a non-big deal or not a big deal, why didn't you just pay it? Why are you going into 3 weeks owing people money and having this single mother to reach out to us and say, I really need my money? It's not a big deal to you. It's never a big deal to the person who owes the money, but it's a big deal to the person who needs the money and who legit the money is theirs. So of course you can afford to say, what's the big deal? That attitude, yeah, that says a lot about who you are, the type of person you are, and how you think. Of course, it's not a big deal to you. If it was, you would have paid it. Let's be frank. We got to do a better job, folks, at just being good people, following the law, and adhering to all of the good principles of honesty and doing right by people. Right? So, another bunch of thieves on the loose in this country. Like I said, we will definitely be solving this mystery here shortly. Trust me, somebody always knows who they are. Somebody will remember, oh, that was my neighbor and I saw him walk out wearing that outfit last night. Or, yep, that's my brother. I know him. He's a thief. You'd be surprised how sometimes siblings and family members reach out to us and they're listen, just because you're related to someone who's dishonest doesn't mean that you're dishonest and that you're going to cloak them up in their bad behavior. So we have family members all the time say, you know what, Sandy? Yes, that's my sister, but I know the type of person she is. She's been a thief from a long time. My mama didn't raise us this way, but you know, she's a thief and this is what she does. And so, yes, go after her. A lot of times those family members provide evidence because not everyone is going to agree with your dirty ways, folks. If you engage in that kind of behavior, people will still stand for what is right. So, what else is happening this weekend? We haven't had any updates on the fish market situation. We really pray and hope that that will continue to be looked into. The cabinet members are in the UK at the moment, it seems. On Wednesday, they had their second day in the UK at this British Overseas Territories JMC meeting. They're talking about how countries have dealt with the COVID-19 pandemic from an economic perspective. And they got an update from the from Britain regarding their exit from the European Union. So we will continue to monitor that situation and keep you guys up to date. So that was the last update we received on that one. We have accepted several prisoners, low-risk prisoners, they have said, from TCI, Turks and Caicos. Apparently they were impacted by a storm back in 2017, which seems like a long time ago. And they continue to rebuild. And then I think they were also impacted by another situation. In terms of a fire or something else at that facility. So they've needed some help offloading some of their prisoners. And it looks like Cayman has stepped up to the plate to help them. Interesting. Hopefully they truly are low risk and not going to be teaching our criminals any new tricks of the trade. Because you know that happens a lot when you start to mix and commingle prisoners from different jurisdictions. So today is Black Friday. As you guys know, yesterday was Thanksgiving. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. we went out and spent a little bit of time with some friends. You know, my husband and I are very hands-on parents, and what that means is we don't have a babysitter. We don't want a babysitter. Sometimes it would be nice, but we're like, nope, we're gonna make this work. So if I have an event to attend, then he is on duty. If he has an event to attend, then I'm on duty, and we just make it work. And so we like social events that are kid friendly. And of course, you appreciate as a parent that not every event is going to be kid friendly. And there's some things that are not appropriate. But a lot of our friends know that our number one priority is our daughter, of course. And so I appreciate them always extending invitations that include her. So we went to a friend's house last night. They had a Thanksgiving spread, very nice spread. Turkey, ham, oxtail, there was salmon, super nice, and lots of sides. So I baked my famous macaroni and cheese with bacon macaroni and cheese, by the way. So it's not for the faint of heart. If you're on a diet, that's probably not the dish for you. But having said that, the taste is even just a little bit. It is amazingly delicious. And so I had someone else at the party said, okay, the next thing you're invited to, can you please bring that salad that I love so much? So the verdict is still out about what I'm going to do for Christmas this year. We're trying to decide, do we do the usual throw down where we have our humongous spread and invite friends over and just enjoy the day? A lot of work goes into that, though, for the person who's hosting. Trust me, I know. So I'm still contemplating how I want to do that, or if I want to do that, I should say. It's always a good time. I kind of feel like this year, because of COVID, number one, a lot of people will not be traveling. So like we have a helper who comes once a day and helps out with cleaning and stuff like that, once a day, once a week. And so she is not able to return to Jamaica to her family. So I'm thinking it'd be nice to, invite her over and have her enjoy the day with us. So I'm still having to think about it. What are you guys going to do for Christmas? What are the plans? So Evelyn says, yeah, she's going to do it up big this year because people can't travel. Yeah, everybody's going to pretty much be here, more or less. So we always do it big. So the question for us is, do we continue to do it big? Verdict is still out. We've got a little bit more planning time. Folks, if you're ordering stuff for Christmas and you have not done so as yet, let me advise you, get on it. Get your Christmas, especially if it's coming from overseas, get your Christmas orders in early, because the situation with customs and these shipping companies, you're going to find that you're going to miss out otherwise. I think that's all we've got. There'll be a couple stories going up here shortly. So please stay tuned for those stories. We're working on something with CNB. We understand a lot of you have been complaining about CNB fees. So we'll have that up probably over the weekend with a view to discussing that on Monday's show. So definitely stay tuned for that as well. Yeah. All right, folks, 9:30. I'm out of here. You guys have a beautiful weekend. Please be safe. I'm hoping that we do not have any fatalities on the road. As you guys know, there was a pedestrian hit and run yesterday right at the top of Woodland Drive that created a traffic nightmare. And then, of course, South Sound was another traffic nightmare because CUC was working on some poles, which they have to do on occasion. And we'll see how the weekend fares, but no updates yet on his condition. He was listed as being in serious condition, so maybe later on today we can get an update on how he's doing. Hopefully he's okay. So please drive with caution, Pay attention to pedestrians and cyclists and everybody else on the roadway. No speeding, no drinking and driving. It sounds like an easy peasy formula, but yet based on the number of accidents that we see on the roadway. Tisk tisk. All right, folks, that's all she wrote. Have a great weekend.
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of The Cold Hard Truth. Make sure to check Facebook for showtimes and more information and the latest news at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Subscribe to our IG and Facebook pages to get the latest happenings.